The lie was small at first, almost harmless. The kind people tell themselves doesn't really matter. It slipped into existence on an ordinary evening, under ordinary lights, with ordinary people moving through their lives unaware that one untruth was about to reshape two destinies forever. No thunder cracked the sky, no warning arrived. Yet in that single moment, something irreversible began, a love born from deception, fragile as glass, powerful enough to wound, and strong enough to heal. This is not a story about perfect people or flawless romance. It is about broken pieces, fear-driven choices, and how sometimes the deepest love grows from the darkest beginnings. Before the story unfolds any further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, in forgiveness, in second chances even when they seem undeserved, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are quietly waiting to be healed. He had never planned to lie. He told himself that repeatedly, especially on nights when sleep refused to come and memories replayed with brutal clarity. His life had already taught him that truth could be dangerous, that honesty often cost more than silence ever did. He had grown up learning how to adapt, how to survive, how to present a version of himself that felt acceptable to the world. Somewhere along the way, that adaptation turned into habit, and habit into identity. By the time he met her, the line between who he was and who he pretended to be had blurred beyond recognition. She entered his life like a quiet sunrise, unnoticed at first, then impossible to ignore. She was not loud or dramatic. She did not demand attention, yet there was something about her presence that softened the sharp edges of the world. She carried herself with a calm strength, shaped by disappointment she rarely spoke of but clearly carried. Life had not been gentle with her either, but instead of hardening, she had learned to bend, to believe that goodness still existed even when evidence suggested otherwise. They met through coincidence, the kind that feels meaningless until years later when it becomes impossible to imagine life without it. The conversations began simply, comfortably, without effort. He found himself laughing more, listening more, caring more than he had in years. She found safety in his attention, warmth in the way he seemed to understand her without explanation. The lie slipped in early, so naturally that even he barely noticed it forming. A detail about his past, reshaped, a truth softened, edited, presented in a way that felt easier to accept. He told himself it was temporary, just until things became clearer, just until trust grew strong enough to hold the truth without breaking. But lies do not remain small. They grow quietly, feeding on fear. Each time he chose silence instead of honesty, the lie deepened its roots. He began building a version of himself that fit perfectly into her expectations, not realizing that expectations built on false foundations eventually collapse. Yet despite the deception, his feelings were real. Every smile he gave her, every moment of care, every unspoken promise carried genuine emotion. That contradiction tore him apart in ways he never admitted aloud. As time passed, their bond strengthened, shared routines formed, small traditions developed. Ordinary days became meaningful simply because they were spent together. She trusted him with her vulnerabilities, her fears, her hopes for a future she desperately wanted to believe in again. She spoke of love cautiously, as if afraid it might disappear if named too loudly. He listened, heart heavy, knowing that the truth he carried could shatter everything she was slowly rebuilding. The struggle within him intensified. Guilt became a constant companion. Some days he resolved to confess, to finally let honesty take its rightful place. Other days fear won, fear of losing her, fear of becoming the reason another person learned not to trust, fear that love, once broken, could never be repaired. He convinced himself that as long as he loved her well, as long as he stayed, protected, and cared, the lie somehow mattered less. But life has a way of forcing truth into the open, whether we are ready or not. The moment arrived without warning, cruel in its timing. It was not delivered gently. It did not offer understanding or patience. The truth surfaced suddenly, exposed through circumstance rather than choice. In that instant, The carefully constructed world they had built together cracked wide open for her. The realization was devastating. It was not just the lie itself, but what it represented. The safety she thought she had found dissolved instantly. Memories replayed with painful reinterpretation. Every moment she had trusted, every time she had believed, now felt tainted. The person she thought she knew became a stranger overnight. The pain was not loud at first. It was quiet, suffocating, the kind that settles deep in the chest and makes breathing difficult. He watched her pull away, watched the distance grow, and knew he deserved every bit of it. Regret consumed him. The love he had tried so desperately to protect now slipped through his fingers because he had not trusted it with the truth. He realized too late that love does not survive on good intentions alone. It requires courage, vulnerability, and the willingness to risk loss in order to be real. The days that followed were heavy, filled with silence and unanswered questions. She withdrew into herself, questioning not only him but her own judgment. She wondered how she could have missed the signs, how she had allowed herself to believe so deeply. Old wounds reopened, trust, once broken, felt impossible to restore. Yet beneath the anger and hurt, confusion lingered. Despite everything, the memories of how he had treated her, how he had shown up, how he had cared did not disappear. For him, this period was one of reckoning. He confronted parts of himself he had long avoided. He stopped justifying the lie and finally allowed himself to fully understand the damage it caused. He realized that his fear of rejection had ironically created the very outcome he feared most. In losing her trust, he lost the version of himself he had begun to like, the one capable of love, growth, and connection. Time moved slowly, painfully. Healing did not come easily to either of them. Yet something unexpected began to happen. Distance created space for reflection. Pain forced honesty inward. She began to see that while the lie was real and hurtful, the love had been real too. That complexity confused her, challenged her black and white understanding of betrayal. She did not excuse the deception, but she began to understand the fear behind it. Change did not happen overnight. It arrived in small, quiet ways. Accountability replaced excuses. Patience replaced desperation. He did not demand forgiveness. He did not pressure her to return. Instead, he focused on becoming honest in every sense, even when it cost him comfort. For the first time, he stopped hiding from himself. She observed from a distance, cautious yet curious. Trust does not rebuild itself through words alone. It requires consistency, humility, and time. She saw him showing up without expectations, respecting boundaries, accepting consequences. Slowly, the anger softened into sadness, and sadness into understanding. She realized that love does not always begin in truth, but it can still end in honesty if people are willing to grow. As weeks turned into months, conversations resumed, careful and deliberate. Not all wounds healed, but they were acknowledged. The relationship that reemerged was different, less naive, more grounded, built on transparency rather than illusion. The lie that once defined their beginning now served as a reminder of what they never wanted to repeat. They learned that love is not about perfection. It is about choosing growth over fear, truth over comfort, and accountability over excuses. Their story did not erase the pain of the past, but it transformed it into something meaningful. The betrayal became a lesson. The loss became a turning point. The love that survived became stronger not because it was untouched, but because it had been tested and rebuilt with intention. If you have stayed with this story so far, if these emotions feel familiar, please pause for a moment and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your words matter more than you know. Near the end, when the weight of everything had settled, she understood something profound. Forgiveness was not about forgetting or excusing what happened. It was about freeing herself from carrying pain that no longer served her. Trust would never look the same, but it could exist again, shaped by wisdom rather than innocence. He understood that honesty was not just a promise to others, but a commitment to himself. Their love story did not begin with honesty, but it did not end in lies either. It ended in truth, hard-earned and deeply valued. It ended in growth, humility, and a shared understanding that love is not defined by how it starts, but by how it chooses to continue. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own struggles, mistakes, or hopes, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe for more stories that explore the complicated beauty of being human. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive. And just before this story ends, we have one special request. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Sometimes one word is enough to say everything, because in the end, love does not demand perfection. It asks for honesty, courage, and the willingness to face ourselves even when the truth arrives late.